Okay, so today we are talking about the critical part. We spoke about this for a while. And Brittney, what are the top takeaways that you think people are going to get from
Abs-
this conversation?
yeah, absolutely. So the main takeaways are critical parts can be burdened or unburdened. We want them to be unburdened because those parts are what help fight for what we want, what we need the most. They're our best friends in a lot of ways. However, if our critical parts get burdened, they really can throw a wrench into things, like especially with our relationships. And we think we're on the right track, but sometimes we're not.
Uh, yeah. All right. It was a great discussion. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. With all that being said, this way into your critical part.
Yay. Welcome to today's episode in our series on the parts of self. Last week, we talked about the responsible part, and this week, we are tackling the critical part. Take it away, Brittney.
Okay. So, our critical parts are one of the most powerful parts that we have. And I'm probably going to talk more about this part than any other part because there's so much content, there's so much stuff that this part does. So I'm going to start with unburdened critical parts. Unburdened critical parts aren't the ones that hang on to junk from the past, the ones that aren't saddled with resentments, yada, yada. So unburdened critical parts are the ones that just help us determine what's right and wrong. What are our values, our morals? What do we like? What do we don't like? So when we're kids, and especially around age 2 or 3, this is when our critical part starts emerging. And we say it's the terrible twos because these kids are like, no, no, me do it. No, don't want to do that. That's the critical part. It helps us determine what we want to be doing, what we don't want to be doing, what we like, what we don't like. This starts very young. However, as we age and mature, unburdened critical parts help us to think more critically, of course. Like, is this the right decision? I want this, but I want that. How can I get both? If I can't get both, which one do I want more? So, our critical parts are really there to help us make more in depth decisions, really. It's not necessarily, do I like the color blue? It's like, ooh, what shade of blue do I like? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So our critical parts are really there to help us form who we are. And it's our kid parts that are the most authentic, but it's our critical part that fights for that authenticity, that really goes for what we're wanting.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, off the top of your head, Amy, do you think of anything that you could give an example for, like, oh, I wanted this and I went for it and I had to figure out how to get it?
I feel like I do that a lot.
Uh-huh.
I guess I do that mostly with, podcasting because that's kind of my job.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to get this many downloads by this time. What am I going to do to make that happen? Kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yep. And so a lot of the times in this sort of thought process, our critical part is tag teaming with our logical part and our responsible part too. And we want that. We want our logical, responsible, critical parts to be friends and work together. That's when things tend to go well. So I could keep talking about unburdened critical part, but that's not the part that trips us up. It's the burdened critical part that
Mm-hmm.
really makes things go awry.
Mm-hmm.
So our critical parts get burdened when our kid parts are burdened, especially, and anytime we notice there's an injustice, something that's not right. This is all the way wrong. This is bad. And so our critical parts are very cued into the stress response, especially with perceived threats. So just a quick review, real or perceived threats trigger the stress response, fight, flight, freeze. Real threats are anything that's going to hurt or kill us. And perceived threats are anything else that's just going to make life harder. So again, critical parts are very cued into perceived threats, like, oh, I'm running late and the consequence is going to be bad. I'm going to get fired from work, blah, blah, blah. So our burden critical parts get overwhelmed. They get stressed. They get ragey, pissy, whatever. And these parts like to just take over the driver's seat and run the show.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not very self aware, and all of us have varying degrees of self awareness, of course, if we're not very self aware, then our critical parts will just run our lives. That's not what we want because if we start spouting off the mouth and you're such a fucking asshole and blah, 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 it's really going to hurt our relationships. The
Mm-hmm.
more critical we get, the worse our relationships tend to be. So I'm just curious, what do you think about that off the top of your head?
I think that makes a lot of sense. Nobody wants to be around somebody that's pissy all the time.
That's right.
It gets real old.
Yes. Yes, it does.
So it gets to be like, I'm not having fun
Yep.
being around you right now.
That's
And
right.
if that's somebody important in your life, that doesn't bode well.
Agreed. Yeah. Our critical part is the most powerful part that we have in that they can build up or tear down ourselves, other people, relationships. So the unburdened critical part really does a good job of building people up. You know, you're doing great. You could do better ABC, XYZ, but listen, you're on track. You know what you're doing. You're good. Tighten things up. You're going to be great. I mean, of course there's some criticism there, some things you could do better, but like the general feel is you're on this, you got it, you're good, versus, this was okay, but you could have done this better, and XYZ, that was bad, and you shouldn't even do this, scrap it.
Yeah.
That's totally burdened. It's just
Yeah.
tearing people down. A
Yeah.
lot of the time people don't realize that that's what's happening because their intentions are meant to be helpful, but damn,
Hmm.
that's not helpful. It's not.
Right.
So let me take this a step further. When our burdened critical parts get on this sort of it needs to be better, our critical parts start bullying people, start abusing people. And a lot of us don't even realize that's what's happening, but that's what's happening. If I go around saying people like, you know what, you need to do this better, and you don't look good, you should do X, Y, and Z, and I really think this, you should do it this way. You're not doing it this, do it this way. It's very easily veers into controlling and abusive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once critical parts start down that path, they don't tend to walk back from that very easily.
Right.
They keep going down that path, they double down.
Hmm.
Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And the more someone is driven by their critical part, the more they live in this territory. And I could talk about how logical part gets roped in. Critical part tends to rope in logical part to justify why they're being like this. I'll save that for the logical portion of our series on this, though.
Okay.
It's not necessarily logical's fault, it's critical's fault. So
Sure.
critical part ropes in any part that they think is advantageous to them. So a lot of times
Sure.
they rope in protector. That is the main part that they'll rope in.
Yeah.
Well, here's the threat, so I need you, protector. You got to do something about this.
Hmm.
So much there. I feel myself kind of getting worked up just talking about
Yeah.
this. Can you feel
Yeah. Yeah.
that?
I can. I can. Um, it's so is protector. I mean, is critical part not only being critical of other people, but is it also being critical of the self?
Yes, constantly. If critical is critical of other people, critical is guaranteed to be critical of self and the other parts of self as well. Critical tends to be most critical of kid parts and nurturing parts. Kid
Mm,
parts because, oh, you're weak. You can't do anything right. You're never going to amount
hmm.
to anything. So all these negative cognitions that we already had, like I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, the kid parts already feel. Critical parts like, yeah, that's right. Fuck you. And then for nurturing parts, critical is like, you're a weak pushover and emotions aren't good. They're bad.
Hmm.
Why do you have emotions? Why do you care? You should stop. And so critical parts really love to shove nurturing and kid parts way to the back of the bus, like they don't even exist. They prefer that because it's easier to control. If we don't have all these emotions running amok, well, I can control things a lot better. But it's not control, that's suppression. There's a big
Mm, yeah.
difference between self control and suppression or repression.
Hmm.
And we do that to ourselves. If our critical part's in control, we do that to other people. Critical part wants control. And protector allows itself to get roped in because control is safer. And so
Mm.
protector says reluctantly, okay, critical, I'll go along with this because it's safer, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I guess.
So let's talk about relationships in this really quick. If you have a parent who is this critical, it's very, very hard to grow up with confidence.
Yep.
How is anyone supposed to have any semblance of confidence or self-esteem when their parent or parents their entire life have been like, you suck.
Mm-hmm.
You're a little shithead. Why
Mm-hmm.
can't you do this right? You smack upside the head. You know better. I mean, how is anyone supposed to do okay with that?
Yeah.
No, no, that's not the way that works. People are not going to be okay if you're that
Right.
critical to them, especially if you're a parent. Ugh. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox. So the other really main relationship that this really factors into is intimate relationships. A lot of the time when we think of domestic violence or intimate partner violence, it's the physical abuse, but that's just one very less used tactic of abuse. That violence is to keep all the other tactics of abuse potent. So, like the emotional abuse, putting people down. Of course, that's driven by critical part. Controlling what people do, what they wear, how they spend their money, if they get money, so on and so forth. Of course, that's critical part. Defining the gender roles or the roles around the house, acting like master of the castle. Of course, that's critical part. So all of these tactics of abuse are driven by critical part.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one. Of course, I didn't talk about all of the tactics of abuse. That's another episode as well. However, in these intimate relationships, it doesn't matter if it's man, woman, non-binary, whatever. If one person is getting to be more controlling, more critical, then it's often goes into abuse territory.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. Authority figures certainly can be abusive because they're critical. A lot of the time, people who want positions of power seek these positions of power because it's about control.
Sure.
And there's often very many times abuses because they have this authority and it goes unchecked. There's no accountability. And when there's no accountability, then critical parts say, ooh, I get free reign. I can do whatever the
Yeah.
hell I want.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Like Mr. Burns, you know?
All right.
Yeah. So they want these uh, places of power. In relationships, it's places of power. And there's a power dynamic in every relationship if it's unhealthy. So parent child, easy. Authority figure, non authority figure, easy. Um, this could be other kids. Then there's bullies in school. This can be, in a friend group, and that's why there's frenemies, so on and so forth. There's so many instances of this happening in relationships. With that being said, we can harness the power of our critical part to be better, not
Mm-hmm.
abusive, essentially. I mean, there's a lot of ways to be better than being abusive, of course. But as Stan Lee always said, with great power comes great responsibility. If our critical parts are the most powerful parts of us, we want them to be responsible. We want to be responsible for them. It's better for
Mm-hmm.
us, it's better for everyone involved. When unburdened critical parts work with the unburdened other parts of self, that's when things go best. So, like what I was saying, working with logical responsible, you're figuring things out. Well, how do I take this trip and vacation? Which flights do I need? What sort of jet lag am I going to have to build into my schedule? So on and so forth. I mean, critical parts really thinking about those details. It's good. Our critical parts help us stay on track, centered, focused on our goals, like you said, Amy. Absolutely. They're helpful for others, especially with problem solving. If someone comes to us and says, "Hey, I want some advice, or I need some practical ways I can achieve this," it's like, "Okay, well, let's sit down and figure this out. I got you. That's great."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really contrasting the burden with unburdened critical part. We really want unburdened. We
Mm-hmm.
don't want burden critical. We don't want it. So, one more thing I'm going to talk about in these relationships is power imbalances. I know I touched on that, but I'm going to dive into this a little bit more. When our critical parts get to be big and overpowering and dominant, it really shoves other people's parts down, especially their kid parts. And if people's kid parts are being shoved down, they cannot be their authentic selves.
Mm-hmm.
They can't. So if you are a person who recognizes that your burdened critical part is in the driver's seat a lot of the time, you might want to reflect on your relationships. How authentic are they? Do you feel like you have genuine connections with anybody? Does it even seem like you want to have more of a relationship or a connection? Is that too vulnerable? And if that's the case, then I understand where your critical part's coming from because protector part's like, don't get close. So, However, I don't know, what's your quality of life if you don't have real, authentic,
Right.
healthy relationships?
Right.
And that is the biggest problem with our critical parts. If our critical parts are burdened and driving the show, we're not having those good relationships.
Hmm.
And it's kind of sad. It really is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know anybody who's told you flat out, like, oh, I don't know if I even have any real friends, but I've had that. It's kind of like a pitiful thing. It's like, oh, wow. Yee.
Yeah.
Ah, I feel for you.
Yeah.
Has anyone said
Well, and
that?
I think, yeah. So I know there's people that like are not genuinely, or I should say, organically friendly.
Yeah.
Like they're not nice people.
Hmm.
They're just not gonna go out and say, "Hi, I'm Frank. Nice to
Yeah.
meet you. What do you like to do?" That's
Hmm.
just not gonna happen with
Yes.
some people.
Yep.
And so the people that are around them are the ones that make their friends for them, and they're friends because they're friends to this other person.
Yeah.
But if that person went away, the other person would be left with nothing
Hmm.
because they don't make any of those genuine friendships themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in what I'm thinking, the person I'm thinking of, um, that is probably most likely because of the critical part
Hmm.
being so much in the driver's seat.
Yeah. And when you watch this person, you just sit back and observe this sort of dynamic. What do you end up thinking in that moment?
Well, I end up thinking like when I see them interacting with other people that are quote unquote friends,
Hmm.
they do fine. So for the most part, unless they're really, really being critical,
Okay.
um, which doesn't happen that often. Um, but I'm like, why is this? You can do this. Why do you rely on other people to
Hmm.
make that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So your critical part comes out a little bit too.
Yeah,
Not like super burden or anything. It's just like, huh, what's going on here?
yeah.
The problem solving piece.
Right. Well, I'm always trying to understand the whys of everything that's going on around me.
Hmm.
And I'm always trying to improve anything that seems to be a problem. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my go-to is to go like, what's going on here?
Hmm.
And then try and come up with a solution.
Yeah. So your unburdened critical part is working a lot of the time, which is good. We want that.
Hmm.
What happens for you though? I'm just curious when you're in this more mode and your critical part's trying to figure it out and it just can't figure it out. What happens then?
Um, well, if I can't figure it out, I just get really frustrated.
Hmm.
I will probably perseverate on it for a while because it bothers me not to be able to figure something out.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I suppose eventually I would just give up.
Sure.
This ain't my problem.
Yeah, yes. Okay. You described exactly how it goes from unburdened critical to burden critical to fuck it, I'm out.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. It's a common progression. This happens for everybody. It's typical. I mean, I'm not going to pathologize that. That's the way it goes. If things go not the way we expect them to, especially for a critical part, then they tend to get more burdened. They don't get burdened like altogether because it's not the junk from the past that's weighing them down. It's the junk from right now. So they get a little burdened in the moment. And if they can figure it out, cool. And if not, it's like, screw it. I'm just going to have to do this later or fuck it. I'm done.
Hmm.
And so critical parts are like, I'm out, then calming down. Critical's unburdened again. It's these little temporary things that come up that's not the problem. It's the stuff from the past that's the problem for these critical parts.
Hmm.
Uh, with that person you were talking about, I'm assuming they have a lot of junk from the past that they haven't dealt with. A lot of burden kit
I,
parts.
yeah, I do believe that. Yes.
Yeah.
Not that I know what everything is, but I
Right.
know there's something.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And we can all reasonably assume that.
Yeah. So what kinds of things happen to a child, a young person, to make that critical part be the thing that drives them when they're older?
Oh boy.
I assume trauma, but like what types? Like,
Wow.
does it have
So
to be abuse or neglect or
all of the above.
okay.
It can be any one thing, it can be a combination of things. So if you have one critical parent, even if one parent is very loving and supportive and not critical at all, and the other parent's fairly critical, you're going to develop at least one burdened critical part that sounds like that parent.
Yeah.
So here's a more clinical term. A perpetrator introject is basically a part of self that takes on the characteristics of the perpetrator. And perpetrator could be an abuser, just someone who's an asshole, whatever, whatever. I mean, people go through all sorts of abuse. So who is ever
Mhm.
perpetrating the abuse? That's the perpetrator. So anyway, perpetrator introject is a part of self that takes on all the characteristics like the vocal tones, the words, the facial expressions, all of that stuff. And a lot of time that part when we visualize it looks like the perpetrator. And that is a critical part that says, if I can't beat them, join them.
Mhm.
And protector agrees with this because it's often less harsh if we abuse ourselves before the actual abuser does. Well, if I already beat them to it, well, then it's not going to be so
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah.
And so we develop these, they don't have to be a full blown perpetrator introject, but we develop these parts of self that just kind of form around this criticism that we get from our parent or parents or teachers or, who's ever significant in our life as an adult. They are the adult or the child, who's ever an significant adult in our lives can have this impact on us. So anyway, if I have a parent that says, you fucking idiot, you're never going to amount to anything, then I'm going to start saying the same thing myself. Well, you fucking anything, idiot, you're never going to
Mhm.
amount to anything. Like, let's say I'm in fourth grade and I'm doing a math test and I don't get it all 100%. Well, I'm a fucking idiot. I'm never going to amount to anything. And then it
Mhm.
just goes on and on and on. We develop these rise above attempts. So let's say, I feel like I'm a fucking idiot. My rise above attempt is I'm going to do anything to make me feel and think and do that I'm not an idiot. So I'm going to do things that I know I can do. I'm not going to even
Mhm.
try things I don't think I can do. So
Mhm.
we end up restricting ourselves. We end up going into areas of life where we feel more comfortable or like we can accomplish more. And so we really narrow ourselves. We put ourselves in a pen, essentially,
Mhm. Mhm.
because of these criticisms that we grew up with that we've internalized.
And your world gets very small
Oh yeah.
when you do that.
Yeah.
My mom is like that.
Oh.
Yeah, she doesn't try anything that she doesn't already know she likes or can
Mm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also always, I can't do that. I don't like that
Mm.
without even knowing,
Oh.
without even trying. I don't like that. Have you ever had it? Nope.
Yep. That's right. Man, that really does cut down on so much new adventures and fun
Hmm.
and exploration. I mean, it sounds like all
Hmm.
stuff out of my kid part. My kid part is like, oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, yeah. And me too. It's hard when she does that, and I'm like, do you know that this one thing that you do like macaroni and cheese? There was a time you never had that.
Hmm.
You had not had that at some point in your life,
Right.
and you tried it, and you liked it, and now you love it. So maybe this thing that I'm trying to get you to eat is something that you're gonna love, but you won't even try it. Nope,
Hmm.
don't want to try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Although she does have Alzheimer's, so there's no more logic going on,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Which is
But I don't think this would have worked 20 years ago either. It's just how
yeah.
she is.
Yeah. So it's not the Alzheimer's fault.
No, it's not. That just doesn't help. But it's
Yes.
not. That's not what it's why it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And that really reminds me of like a 2 or a 3-year-old. You're trying to get them to try new food. Like, try these peas. You'll
Hmm.
love them. Mm-mm, no, meh,
Yeah,
yucky.
yeah, yeah.
It's critical
I
part.
don't know where I don't know where kids get that. If you've never tried it, how do you know you don't like it?
Again, it's the critical part.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a really good time to throw out that our critical parts get very judgmental. Even if we have
Mm-hmm.
no experience, even if we have no knowledge, it's like, no, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Our critical parts predetermine these things because we're being judgy. And
Mm-hmm.
the more burdened our critical parts are, the more judgy we get.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm sure you've met some people who are super judgy, but it's like if you've met someone who's really judgy, it's like you'd spend a day with them. Everything that they comment about is a judgment. Ugh, this coffee's too cold. Ugh, her hair's not straight enough. It's just
Yeah.
every single little thing is a judgment.
Mm-hmm.
That starts when we're like 2 or 3, and it's a very, very toddler mindset.
Yeah.
And so the more burdened our critical parts are, the more we're operating like toddlers. It's
Yeah.
not mature. It's
Right.
not conducive for growth, for sure. Because if you're not
Mm-hmm.
trying new things, how are you supposed to grow?
Right.
So a big, I guess, piece of this puzzle is the more burdened our critical parts are, the less our kid parts are able to be themselves. We cannot authentically be ourselves. We cannot grow as human beings if our critical parts are constantly clamping things down.
Yeah.
Well, Minneapolis is on fire and it's a scary place to go. I'm not even going to go there.
I
You
hear
know what
that
I'm
a lot.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I tell
It's
you,
fine.
where are these fires going on in Minneapolis? Because every time
Yeah.
I've gone, it's been perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were for about a weekend,
Sure.
or maybe a couple weeks, a
Like
long time
five
ago.
years ago. Yeah,
Yeah, like 5 years ago. And so that I get that, but it's not still happening.
that's right.
People say that all the time.
Uh-huh. Now, I know that if people are being lied to, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
if you're just going along with it, your critical part's not doing its job.
Yeah.
Our critical part's job is to evaluate. Does this make sense? Is this factual? Does this correlate with everything else I'm hearing? And if it doesn't add up, our critical parts are like, that's bullshit.
Hmm.
It smells like shit, looks like shit, is shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and this is where things start to get really weird with our critical parts. If our critical parts want to believe something, then they will do everything in their power to make that true.
Yeah.
And then again, it's our logical part being roped in to justify this. But if I really want to say that, I don't know, the sky is green, I'm going to do what I can to argue that it's green. It's not blue. I mean, it maybe shades of blue because blue is a part of green, but it's green.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you know anyone like that?
I know, I think several people like that. Um, but I think that so many people right now, at least here in this country,
Mhm.
are are believing what they want to believe and not taking things like not critically thinking,
Yeah.
you know, not using critical thinking, good critical
Hmm.
thinking, and just going with, the world's falling apart and everybody's dying and we're all going to die and we'll be lucky to be here in a month and all of that because that's what they've told themselves is happening.
Yes.
And if you come at them with, well, we can still do this and maybe this will happen, and then you're in a fairyland and
Yep.
you're magical thinking and
Hmm.
all that. Because for some reason, it makes them comfortable to instead feel doom.
Yep. Yep.
And that you're not going to change that. Trust me, I've
No.
tried.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And this is when protector part gets to be just as strong as critical and they're working together in this. It's protector that really says, no, we can't handle this. We can't accept
Hmm.
this. It's too dangerous. And that's a lot of the time why critical part starts doing these mental gymnastics, essentially.
Hmm.
It's to fit this narrative.
Hmm.
And if we feel unsafe this way, well, I got to fit this narrative so I can feel safer this way.
Hmm.
For example, if I'm afraid of anyone that I've never met before and people who look different from me, then I'm going to be afraid to leave my own house and go to
Yep.
Minneapolis and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. And what kind of a life is that? It's not. It
It's
sucks.
not. Yeah. And the more that happens, the more you keep living that and saying that to yourself,
Yeah,
the smaller and smaller your world gets.
that's right.
Like we were saying with my mom and not trying new things.
Hmm.
Not being open to new ideas, not
Yeah.
being able to see outside your own nose, you
Yes.
know?
Exactly. And eventually enough people are going to be like, yeah, you are living in a fantasy land and this isn't what reality is, so I'll see you later. They're gone.
Hmm.
And then people get more and more angry, like, well, it's not my fault. There's critical part. It's not my fault. It must be them.
Yeah.
So a lot of time when critical part is very critical of us, there's this also thing where they're justifying where it's not us because of this narrative that we have. So I
Hmm.
may be a fucking idiot and I can't amount to anything, so on and so forth, but it's your fault that I can't amount to anything.
Hmm.
It's your fault I'm the idiot, which
Yeah.
makes no sense. And so the more critical parts get burdened, the more they drive the show, the more just idiotic this type of thinking tends to be.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've met any, I know you have met some people who with narcissistic personality disorder. When they
Yeah.
were making decisions about things or trying to get deeper into life, I mean, how just illogical did their thinking and thought process tend to get?
I want to say it, the person I'm thinking of was pretty logical,
Uh-huh.
but very close-minded.
Yeah.
So, like, there was a lot of if this happens, then this might happen, and strategizing and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it it never got to let me think of a new idea.
Mm,
Maybe I could consider this. Maybe that would work. I saw somebody else do this. Maybe I could do that. It doesn't go like that. It's me. I'm the only one that knows.
yep.
I'm the only one that has anything of any value to say
Yep.
or think. And um and usually it does not end well
Yeah.
because also they act like they're asking for your advice, but when you give it, they go, I don't, no, no. They didn't really
Exactly.
want it. They just wanted validation. So I stopped giving advice
Yeah,
because I'm
exactly.
like, you don't really want it. You just want me to say that what you're already going to do is okay.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think it is. So I'm not going to say anything at all.
Yeah. Better for you.
Yeah.
Because, the she, whatever, who wasn't going to
Yeah.
listen to it anyway.
Right.
Yeah. And
And I'm someone who loves to give advice. So people ask me for advice and I'm like, yay. And then I give it and they go, thanks. And then do the opposite. I'm like, you just waiting to see what to do because whatever I say, you're going to do the opposite.
uh-huh.
But yeah, the person I'm thinking of that I've talked about before. Also, when you were talking about a parent being very critical,
Yeah.
her parent was very critical.
Yeah.
You're fat.
Mm.
You're not pretty enough. You're why do you wear that? That looks terrible on you. I mean,
Uh,
it was constant. So it's no surprise that she's like that.
yeah. Ugh.
It's too bad.
It is too bad. It is too bad. When our critical parts get this burdened and then our protector parts get roped in or they agree with us and tag team, safety is at the expense of freedom.
Mm,
Critical and protector want safety, 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 safety. And it's like, okay, I'm willing to get rid of my freedoms for this. I'm really willing to let go of my freedoms for that as long as I feel safe. We don't want to get rid of our freedom at for the sake of safety. Because at
yeah,
that point, it's not safe anymore. If I can't even have my own self determination, my own personal agency, and someone's making these decisions for me, that's not safe.
yeah.
My critical part's going, well, they don't know what's best for me. I know what's best for me.
Hmm.
They don't know my life. I know my life. Uh,
Hmm.
so on and so forth. So it's not safe if someone
Hmm.
else is trying to take your freedom.
Right.
It's for their safety, but they don't even realize how much they're letting go of their own freedom as well.
Hmm.
I've talked with a lot of people with a lot of trauma, of course. And a lot of the time when I've heard very, very burdened protector parts, it's like, well, we don't care about freedom because we have to have safety.
Yeah.
And if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety is the very bottom rung. If we don't have safety, then what does food, clothing, and shelter matter?
Yeah.
I mean, food, clothing, shelter do help provide that safety, but if someone's inside your house, that's not safe. Food,
Right.
clothing, water don't matter.
Right.
If your house is, I don't know, a tent, it's not that safe,
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. So safety, a lot of the time, if people don't have the established safety, then their protector part is going to go a lot more hand in hand with their critical part. And when I talk to a lot of older people, older than you, Amy, I not like you're old or anything,
What? You know people older than me?
right? Not like you're old or anything. Seriously, I've talked with a lot of people who are boomers or older, and they're always like, "Well, I had food, clothing, and shelter when I was growing up. My parents did just fine. I was provided for." Did they ever say "I love you" to you? No, we didn't need that.
Yeah.
No. Did they ever give you positive encouragement, help you with your homework, tuck you in at night? Well, no, we didn't need that either. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of the time, we find that when we have not just generations, but people who go through a similar situation, like a collective of people, then it's the same sort of mindset and it's the same sort of mode of operation that their critical parts end up doing. And that's why generations tend to be lumped in together because of our shared culture and how we were raised and blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. But it's not just that. Like if people were in combat together, well, they were in a specific situation, they can relate about it. You know, we're in a foxhole. He's my best friend. I can trust him for life, kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
People who go through disasters together, like 9/11. You know, there's this whole
Mm-hmm.
collective patriotism in our country after September 11th, '01. And it's like, you know, everyone's, you know, if you don't like it, you can get out, you know, sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
we have these collective things that all kind of inform and change how we start thinking and viewing things. Um, so a lot of the time, again, with older people, especially in our country, it's, you know, they dismiss the emotions, the validation, the
Yeah.
needing of the positive reinforcement, so on and so forth. They just dismiss it. And so when they were raising their own kids, they were doing a lot of the same things that their parents were doing, and a lot of kids they raised were millennials, you know, so on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. Not just millennials, but of course some Gen X, some Gen Z even. And I think starting with Gen X, your generation, there was a lot
Mm-hmm.
more of a collective of this is fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more
Yeah.
about that from your perspective.
Well, especially in the last few years, Gen X content creators, people on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, talk about, oh, this is how I was raised. I stayed out and played all night until the sun came down, and
Yeah,
my mom never knew where we were, and they actually had TV ads at the end of the day that say, "Do you know where your children are?" Because they didn't know where we were,
that's right.
and they didn't give a shit, and
Yeah.
we, because, and I grew up like that,
Hmm.
but I didn't know there was anything wrong with it
Sure.
until I started seeing later generations be almost coddled.
Mm.
And then I was reacting with, nobody ever talked to me like that. Nobody ever babied me.
Hmm.
And then and I think it's because the millennials were raised mostly by Gen X, and the Gen X, when they have kids, go, well, I'm not going to raise kids the way I was raised. I'm gonna show love to my child,
Yeah.
and but then maybe go overboard and overcompensate and over coddle and
Mm.
give prizes when there's no competition and
Sure.
things like that. And so I think it swings back and forth. But I
Mhm.
never realized that Gen X was that it wasn't normal to just let your kids run feral. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we did.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until later that I went, oh, that's not normal.
Hmm.
I don't know. Worked out fine for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know, did it? Because, obviously not everybody, a lot of us have scars
Hmm. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
abandonment issues and
Mm.
people pleasing problems
Hmm.
and all of that.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of what I'm hearing with you saying is like the way you grew up, it's like you're starting to see things as an adult, like, huh, that's not making sense, or who, that's not quite right. And oh,
Yeah.
these kids are coddled. I'm like, that's all your critical part, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not like you're judging anybody, but it's like it's so easy to compare our experiences with other people and be like, well, why can't it be like this or that's stupid because it's not the exact same as our experience.
Right.
And a lot of what we want our critical part to do is balance things out.
Hmm.
Yeah, that wasn't the same as how I grew up, but that was better. And maybe maybe they didn't need to coddle them so much, but this was all right. Let's find what worked well here and let's take that to the
Hmm.
next generation. That's
Yeah.
really where we want our critical parts to be.
Right.
But that's a really, I like that you kind of went there because it illustrates a point for sure. When we have our own experiences and we compare to other
Hmm.
people, things can go very wrong because our critical part is judging us or judging other people, and we don't want that judgment.
Yeah.
A lot of xenophobia comes from this too. Well, this is the best way. Wow,
Hmm.
genocide came from that. If we look at the history of, manifest destiny in this country, then all of the fucking genocide of these Native American people
Hmm.
because they're savages.
Yeah.
We're white. We're Christian. We know
Yeah.
best. Convert or
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ugh.
right. So again, freedom versus safety. If I'm afraid of these Native Americans because they're well established and they know how to, take care of themselves in so many different ways, and we're in this new land, we don't even know how to take care of ourselves. Yeah, that's scary. But it's at the expense of freedom, of course. Freedom versus safety. We want balance.
Hmm.
The more we want to feel safe and get rid of our freedoms, the less safe we're going to be.
Hmm.
So there's that like what? It's a paradox, right? The more we try to achieve something, the more it slips away. Like I don't know. What's the cliche? I don't remember.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the exact quote.
Yeah, clearly, me too.
Maybe somebody listening is shouting it right now.
I hope so.
Send us a message
Yes, please.
if
Yes,
we don't figure it out before we're done here.
absolutely. Yeah. A lot of the time when our critical parts get on this track, it ends up being gaslighting too. So if I
Hmm.
say, well, it wasn't that bad, like if I'm a parent and I'm talking to my kid, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, it was terrible. No, you're just, blowing this out of proportion.
Right.
Gaslighting, and this happens so much in domestic violence relationships and power dynamics with, authority figures, so on and so forth. Gaslighting is a very go-to thing. Well, that's not the way it was. You're making it too big of a deal.
Hmm.
All driven my critical part. And so the build up to this, what I really want to get to is there's a I don't know how familiar you are with AA, but I've got a lot of clients who have been in AA and so on and so forth. So I know a lot more about it than a lot of people without having to, be in it. But anyway, there's
Hmm.
a phrase that they say, we're taking the God position by
Hmm.
saying, I I know what's best. And I might have a drinking problem, but I'm not an alcoholic, so on and so forth. Is this mindset that I know best for me,
Hmm.
for everyone,
Hmm.
for the world. They call that taking the God position.
Okay.
And if you look at the 12 steps, the very first step is admitting that we're powerless to alcoholism or narcotics or, whatever a step you're in. And
Hmm.
um, I give myself over to a higher power.
Hmm.
And so that's why that's the first step. Because if we're in the God position, if our critical part is like, I know what's best, then we're not going to make any difference, not going to make a change. We're still going to be alcoholics. We're still going to be addicts, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
And so I really feel like if anyone looks at this from like a religious point of view, it's our critical part that is more like the devil or more like I don't know much about other religions to like in this sort of realm, but if you're looking at like say Buddhism and suffering, the desire is suffering. Well, our critical parts desire things. So if no more about other religions, I can take this as critical part really is the antithesis of what enlightenment is, of what being saved is, of what nirvana is, so on and so forth. It's the
Hmm.
opposite. Critical parts keep us stuck in, uh, how do I even put this? Stuck, period. That's it.
Yeah.
Stuck.
Yeah.
They think they know what's best. They think they're doing what's right, but they're not.
Hmm.
I'm pausing because I really want to emphasize that point. If our critical parts think they're doing what's best and they're not even reflecting, is this best?
Hmm.
They're not doing their job. So I'm going to challenge anyone who's listening right now. If you notice that you think you know what's best, or you have this idea that's set and you don't even have to revisit it, maybe you should
Hmm.
take a step back. Just ask yourself, is this really the right thing? Is this really the best way for me, for other people? What are the long-term consequences, outcomes? What are the short-term consequences or outcomes? Just take a step back, take a deep breath. Is this safety you're going for? Is this freedom you're going for? Is it both? Are you going for connection? Are you going for control? All things to really ask yourself to rein in your critical part so you have control over it rather than it having control over you.
I like that.
So many questions to ask yourself. The last thing I'm going to throw out here, swinging back around to relationships, is there's three main styles of conflict resolution spelled out by John Gottman, who's like the leading relationship expert in the country. So anyway, John Gottman. There's avoidant conflict resolution, there's volatile, and then there's collaborative. So essentially, collaborative is like, hey, we have a problem. This is what I think. What do you think? How can we meet in the middle? You know, your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings are valid. My emotions, whatever, are valid. Let's come together. Okay, we got this worked out. Great. So that's collaborative. Then there's the conflict avoidant. It's like, well, we have conflict, so let's just not talk about it. Let's pretend it doesn't
Hmm.
exist. Let's just move
Hmm.
on. And then there's volatile, and that's when people start like duking it out. Like, well, I'm just going to scream at you and I'm going to scream at you back and blah, blah, blah. And so volatile conflict resolution, we think of as people being very passionate, and they're so passionate they have to fight about it. And that's okay as long as the intention is resolution.
Yeah.
If the intention is just to fight, then that's not going to help.
Right.
All of these conflict styles are driven by not protector, by critical part, of course, and it's the volatile that is really driven by critical. Again, as long as the intention is resolution, then that's great. So again, ask yourself, what is my critical part trying to achieve here? What's in the best interest for all of me more than just what my critical part is thinking? How can I help this relationship rather than tear it down? How can I help myself rather than just tear myself down? The more you stop and think about these things, question these things, the more you are going to get control of yourself rather than your critical part being control of you.
Hmm.
Self control is one of the most important things that we have in this world, because if we can't control ourselves, other people are going to control us more easily.
Mm. Sure.
So again, looping back around to our critical part is the most powerful part of us. If we can harness that in a healthy way, that's good for us, good for other people. That's really what's going to be the best all around.
Hmm.
Critical parts think they know what's best, but if we're just letting them, it's not necessarily the best thing.
Hmm.
We want to be in control of our critical parts. So if I'm going to put this in a nice, neat little package, if I'm thinking of anyone who can easily use their critical part and then get right back to their authentic self, I'm going to use Paul Rudd again.
Yay, Paul already shows up every time.
He's played a lot of different roles, of course. He's not just the sexy stepbrother like on Clueless. But if I think of different roles he's been in, like, let's say Ant-Man or whatever, he's playing a serious role. He's saying, this isn't right. I got to do this job well, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as like his critical part's done his job, he's right back to being kid part. Like, I
Hmm.
know these are roles and I know this
Right.
is written for him, but he's still the actual person doing this, and
Right.
we can see how this goes. So
Yeah.
like as soon as he's done being serious, he's back to his kid self. He's right back to his
Yeah.
authentic self. As soon as
Yeah.
he's done this job, right back to himself. And that's what
Yeah.
we want. As soon as our critical part is done its job, let them take a break, get back to your authentic self.
Yeah. Well, and even I know you're talking about like his roles, like the characters doing these things, but also Paul Rudd is doing these things because
Yes.
like he's playing the part
Yes.
And then he gets in his car and goes home. And I assume that he is probably in a pretty good mood.
Uh-huh.
He did his job, and now he's going to go have some fun with his kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And that's
And
how,
Paul Rudd, if you're not really like that, I don't want to hear about it.
well, yeah, let us keep our
Yeah,
illusion
let us,
here.
yeah,
But I can imagine that's how he actually is because
yes.
I don't know if you've seen him on Hot Ones or any interview or
Yeah.
anything.
I was
Yeah.
going to say, like interviews, he's always like, he'll answer a serious question, but then he's goofing off in 2 seconds
Yeah,
later.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yes,
And
yes.
it does feel like that the goofy is the authentic self. And whatever happens, he comes back to that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Because again, our kid parts are the most authentic parts of us. Every part of us is authentic, but really our kid parts are the ones that are like, here I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so again, I'm beating a dead horse now, but the more burdened our critical parts get, the less authentic our kid parts get to be. The
Hmm.
more we're stuck, the more we're just shoved into a box, and that's no way to live. It's not freedom.
Right. Um, if you are listeners, if they are in relationships, know people that are being driven by their critical part. I have a couple in my life. What would you recommend somebody in that kind of a situation do with that other person to help them, to help their critical part zip it a little
Mm,
bit and let their kid part come out a little bit more?
okay, yeah, good question. It really depends a lot of the time on how entrenched the other person's critical part is, how like strapped into the driver's seat they are. But there are things you certainly can do to influence. So the first thing is come in with a vibe. Emotions, body sensations, vocal tones, facial expressions. Did I say that twice? Whatever. Come in with this vibe. Like, I'm just curious. I'm just wanting to have a conversation. I want to get to know you better. There's nothing here you have to defend against, nothing you got to
Mm,
protect against, so on and so forth. I'm not here to criticize you. I just want to learn. I just want to know. So bring in your unburdened, curious kid part. That's the very first
okay,
thing. So I'm just going to pretend like you're the person who's super critical. Oh, Amy, what
sure.
you do for fun today? Start with a kid part, unburdened kid part, question or comment or whatever. Bring that energy in there first. It helps to disarm a little bit.
Hmm.
However, if it doesn't disarm and the other person's critical part's really entrenched, you'll understand right away because they'll be like, why are you so
Nothing good
happy?
to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So how they respond right off the bat is going to tell you how far you're going to go.
Yeah. Which way to go? Yeah.
Yeah. So if they're just like curmudgeon right away, then you might want to just be like, oh, okay, well, tell me how shitty your day was. Tell me all about it. So you want to just kind of give them some validation. Yeah, it's been a shitty
Hmm.
day. Sure, let me hear about it. So as they're saying about it, you know, you can do some empathy. You don't have to be like, "Oh, that was the worst day I've ever heard in my life." But you know, just like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds shitty." Yeah. Yeah. Well, so then you can change the subject. And if
Hmm.
you change the subject, bring your curious, unburdened kid part back into it. And if they're still curmudgeon, then okay, then you're not going anywhere. But if they're like, then you can go somewhere. So really, you have a lot of influence, again, depending on how entrenched their critical part is, but you do have a lot of influence over someone else, just depending on, again, your vibe, your facial expressions, your vocal tones, your intentions, so on and so forth. Um, I don't remember if I've brought this up yet, but we have this collection of neurons in both sides of our temples called mirror neurons. And these mirror neurons basically help us to cue in what's going on with other people. So
Hmm.
if you're looking like sad, you're going to be like, oh, you start feeling like that. Or if you walk into a room and everyone's laughing, and you're like, you're laughing about, it, but this is great.
Yeah.
It's mirror neurons.
Okay.
So these basically, the researchers who discovered these mirror neurons basically wanted to call them monkey see, monkey do because basically, if I see someone with a piece of chocolate cake, I'm like, oh God, I want some chocolate cake. That looks good.
Yeah.
So these mirror neurons are what really drives this. If someone's being critical and you're okay, but then they start rubbing off on you, it's the mirror neurons.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can use this to your advantage. If someone's in a shitty mood and their critical parts in the driver's seat, come in again with unburdened kid part, being just curious, just I just want to know how your day's been. Tell me
Mm-hmm.
more. You can bring in your
Okay.
nurturing part too, but usually it's the unburdened kid part that's more disarming than any other part.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If critical parts do not respond well to unburdened kid parts trying to disarm and joke and bring in humor and all of these things, then the only other part that critical parts are really going to listen to are critical parts. And
Yeah.
if someone's critical part's really burdened, then it's got to be a stern, unburdened critical part. So I'll give you an example. I've used this with my husband. He's gotten into shitty moods before, of course, like everyone has, but sometimes when shitty moods lasted longer than it really needed to, or for just, here's my critical part for fucking stupid reasons, um, it's like, listen, I know you're in a shitty mood. I know you've had a bad day, but I didn't make this bad for you. Why are you taking this out on me? This is just making my day bad. You really want that? Come on, give me a break. And then usually he gets more pissy, but he's like, okay, fine. And then he gets out of it.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Sometimes it takes other people's critical parts to
Uh-huh.
remove a critical part.
Yeah. Is that like because that's all they really respect? Because that's
Hmm.
the frame of mind they're in?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. And so if you're trying to be logical, X, Y, and Z, well, that's not going to work. If you try to be nurturing, it'll be okay. You can try that. Well, you're just being fucking stupid. If you're trying to be responsible, like, listen, you got to get X, Y, and D's. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So any other part that you can come in and try to encourage them to do it A, B, C, X, Y, Z, whatever differently, they're going to have a critical remark and a way to shoot it down.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come in with that critical, like, this is fucking stupid. I didn't make your day bad. Why are you making my day bad?
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll get it. However, if you try this and their critical part gets even more entrenched, not worth your time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's evaluate the relationship. Is this a relationship that's healthy?
Mm-hmm.
What's good about this for me? Because every healthy relationship is mutually beneficial and mutually respectful. If you're not even being respected in this relationship, is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when other people's critical parts get really burdened, they don't care about respect as much. So, more questions to ask yourself. Is this
Okay.
them? Is this authentically them that doesn't respect me? Is it their critical part that doesn't respect me? Are they depressed? Or do they have PTSD? Is this something else that's going on? But listen, I deal with a lot of people with a lot of trauma, and there's no excuse to treat people with disrespect. A lot of the people that I've worked with have been exceptionally traumatized, and they're still quite respectful to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So having a mental health diagnosis is not an excuse to be a dick.
Yeah. Yes.
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 So anyway, if trying these two approaches with someone's critical part, the curious unburdened kid part first, and then the stern but unburdened critical part, if both of those don't work, I don't know if it's worth your time at that moment. Try again some other
Mm-hmm.
day, see where it takes you some other day. If
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to do this for months, weeks, months, years, whatever, is it worth your time? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you want to loop back around to your own critical part. Is this healthy for me? Is this relationship doing anything good for me? How much of myself am I pouring into this with getting nothing in return or just getting shit on in return? So on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. So again, reflect on yourself with your own unburdened critical part that's going to help steer you in the right direction. Your critical part, unburdened, is always going to steer you in the right direction.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So that was a lot.
That was good. A lot of good stuff.
Good.
Because I think most of us have at least one person in their life that's like that, whether it's just a coworker or a parent or a best friend or
Yeah.
whatever.
If, hopefully we've only had one person in our life like this, but statistics are you're going to have more than one person like this.
Yeah.
Just going to throw out there, like last I knew, statistics were 1 in 3 households in this country has domestic violence problems. One in
Mm,
three.
wow.
1 in 3 households. So we can reasonably assume at least, maybe a third of the population are running around with their critical parts firmly in the driver's seat.
Sure. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And
That's a lot.
it is, yeah. And a lot of the time, these people know how to put on a good face because critical part
Mm,
says, I have to be presentable in public.
mm,
And so you wouldn't even know if you're talking to someone if they're super critical dominated because, again, they know how to put on a good face.
sure.
But at
Sure.
home, they're super abusive or controlling or
Mm,
whatever. And you
mhm.
wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
we'll have to
yeah.
have a whole episode on like domestic violence and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That would be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Because
put that on the list.
it's all driven by critical part, of course. But yeah, that would be its
Mhm.
own separate thing.
And a lot of times, I think you've mentioned before that a lot of times, when critical ropes in a protector part, that's when things get dangerous.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to give an example of that, that's like when someone is trying to leave an abusive relationship. The abuser says, well, I can't lose this person. If I can't have them, no one else can. So they get very
Yeah.
possessive. And so the lethality
Hmm.
increases 800%, at least last I knew statistically, that when someone tries to leave an abusive relationship, their chance of dying by that abuser goes up 800%.
Jeez. Yeah.
If we look at gun violence toward women in this country, especially women of childbearing age, the vast majority of people, women, are murdered by men,
Hmm.
usually current or former partner.
Hmm.
So if you see a woman being, in the news that they were murdered, it was likely by a gun, likely by a dude, likely by someone
Hmm.
that they knew, likely
Yeah.
by someone that they were in a relationship with.
Yeah. As we say in Murderino land, it's always the husband.
That's right.
And it's never a mannequin, but it's always the husband.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, yes, that's when critical and protector get together because protector is like, I cannot live without controlling someone.
Hmm.
Essentially, it's because it's not safe enough.
Hmm.
Uh, there's so many
And I'm
names.
sure we'll get into that when we
Yeah,
talk about protector, but that
yeah,
I assume that's because as a child, because everything is from when you were a child,
yes,
you were not protected.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into all of that more as we go along, of course. But, this is a long episode, so we should probably wrap it up because there's so
Yeah,
much
we
more
should.
I can talk about. My critical part's like, stop talking. Okay, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. This was great.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. And what do we want to do next time? Which part are we going to do next time?
Oh, we better do protector next time.
Okay. Good. That's what I was thinking. Cool. All right. Well, stay tuned next time for our protector part.
That's all right.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
This Way In is a conversation about mental health and everyday well-being, but it is not therapy. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship, and the information we share is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you are feeling overwhelmed or struggling with your mental health, please reach out to a qualified professional in your area. Never delay, disregard, or change professional recommendations or advice because of something you heard here. And please remember that any views expressed here are our own and don't represent any licensing boards. This Way In is co-produced by Brittney Baxter Dameron and me, Amy Lotsberg, at Collected Sounds Media. I also edit and manage the show, which is part of the Collected Sounds Independent Podcast Network.